All right, guys. Super fast critique since the Twitch servers were down yesterday. The other downside is I did this recording yesterday evening and then realized at the very end that the mic was off. So round two. So I'm just gonna blast through these, just get some high level critiques on stuff, and then call it good. Get this on YouTube and get this to you guys on the Discord. Let me get my OneNote up. So I made some comments on them prior. Just make sure it's all here. All right, here we go. It's just so weird talking when no one's here, which is weird because that's what I do anyways. So we're looking at this this moped. I'm not even gonna look at like who did what unless their name is somewhere on here. Overall, this looks pretty good. Some comments that I had made before are things like, let's see if I can zoom in here. So this like trim shape here. Let's see if I can just do this. So you can see I drew it here. It's like you have two separate materials or pieces of material, and then they're being bound together by this seam here. And then I suggested adding an extra loop in there to try and curve it. And then let's see if I can go in here really fast and kind of give an illustration. I think is it in here? No, it's not that one. So illustration I gave is having two spheres, and then one of them's over here. Let's do that. So you have this seam here, and I'll use Retopo to do this. So what I was thinking is like, so you got your quad here, right? Let's go in here now and we'll just do this. So it's kind of conforming to the shape. And then if you drag this out like that, and then again like this. Let's just position these. So you get this inset that you didn't have in yours. That's going to allow for much more selling of like what's happening with the actual geometry. So if where are we at here? Oh, I'm using, this is weird. So if you use thicken, bring this out like that, and then divide it. Like having that type of detail, right? You can see like the way that the lighting hits it explains the curve a bit better. Whereas if you didn't have these, then you just get that seam, which is okay. It just doesn't imply as much as far as like what's actually happening. You can do stuff like that. Let's see what else we got here. Yeah. Okay. So other things I pointed out is like this seam. You could model that in. I wouldn't worry about baking that out. That detail can just be there. This detail I was suggesting could be a little thicker, just so that the payoff for having it is there. This edge here has a specific thickness, right? And that thickness is consistent down here as well as here. This is pretty close to the same thickness. I would think about bringing consistency to this one and bringing this seam or edge in the same thickness range as these guys, just to see if it if that weight kind of feels correct. Maybe thicken this up too, or at least try it and see what it looks like, and then add some extra cuts here. I'll just do this. Adding some extra cuts here to round that out. You probably don't need more than like 2 more. Yeah. Oh, and then I was gonna say on the material here, like it looks pretty dirty, which is fine. A lot of your normal map information looks like it's got little specks of stuff in it. I try and make sure that that's not so. I would leave that type of detail up to the albedo and more so the roughness than any other part of the material. But yeah. All right. Next up, we got this one. This one was here. Not that one. Is this guy. Alexander. The things that I mentioned are so textile density, TD. You've got this detail here and this detail are different resolutions, like it's a cat. So these are different texture resolutions or textile density, so they're kind of sticking out quite a bit. The other thing I mentioned was the vines behind the ivy. The ivy or the leaves are actually growing out of is really basic in shape and could definitely, like right now you're doing this, and I think explaining more about how it grows and branching from itself is probably going to net you a better visual end result. I brought up the plants here and them being like it's a good addition, but you need some more variety, maybe like 1 or 2 more different plants. Looking at the ivy leaves, it was like looking at the angles of them and then how duplicated they look. It's like getting some variety in those. Maybe if you had 2 or 3 different leaves as well that you can scatter between. Other than that, this shot is a pretty cool angle. I pointed out some other things. Like the biggest problem I think in this scene is actually the prop scale. And you gotta like, when you're building your scene out, if this is on Unreal, and you don't have to have it forever, but just getting the character scale in here, getting like the Unreal character so that you know how tall someone is, and then propping everything to it, because you've got nails here that look like they're like that big. And then you've got this trash can, which looks like it should actually be 4 times bigger than that. The height of these windows is dependent on like think about where the bottom of this window is and then where the bottom of that window is in the actual space inside. Maybe this is either too low or something like that. Or maybe size-wise the bars are really, so those bars are huge. And maybe that's okay. It's just double checking your scale on everything. These bricks look really massive as well. But again, it depends on like, I'm not sure which one's the correct one because I have no frame of reference for scale. But yeah, textile density, scale, prop variety, some more fidelity on the ivy, and I think you'd be in a good spot. This one, the Isomax, which is it this one? I think did I skip? No, this one was this is Alex talking about, he was asking what this workflow, like if this workflow is a good thing. And I mean, this is what they're doing on at Cloud Imperium, right? So what you're doing is you've got your base materials, which you end up only paying the expense of rendering the material or calling the material once. And then you're using decals and floating unique details like a trim sheet or decal sheet, as well as these guys. In your shader, you're building it up so that you can place them on your mesh where you need them. And then all of the materials are being ID mapped. This is totally fine. It actually makes me curious why this detail here is in a normal map. like this looks like a 0 to 1 mapped space, when this could just be tiled, and then you're just UVing this strip here to fit that tiled material. You know what I mean? Because like that could be tiled, this could be a strip that's tiled, this could be, you know, there's a lot of details in here. You don't actually need this normal. You need maybe like 5 normals that are doing what this is doing, but tileable, so that they're reusable across the board. Because if you're going this far, then you might as well do it with this stuff. And if that's the case with this, then you've got your grunge map is going to imitate the tileable materials that you're doing in the first place. So I would suggest making this not so unique and making it more generic as far as like tileable maps, and then apply those uniquely to your mesh as well. But I guess that's you do that, and that increases the materials that you have to apply to the asset too. So it's kind of a back and forth, I guess. Next up was this guy. So Michael is doing a power cell based off of the Empire challenge, the last challenge for the terminal. So what I had said about this is make sure these corners. Let's see if I can highlight this. I don't think I can. Not easily. Oh, I press H for hide. Ha. So this edge here, I was talking about. Let me see what it looks like here. So there's a seam there, like, or a hard edge in the material. Check that, because it looks like it's a dust or a dirt layer. I said to bevel this edge. You can see right here, it's very like squared off. Look into this as far as like how your masks are being generated. These little bolts here, I think I illustrated here. Yeah, these bolts, totally model those out. So the cloud stuff here. Oh yeah, I see. I tell you to bevel here as well. But the cloud pattern that's happening on this emissive needs to be more along the outside edge and not so much like cloudy procedural looking. Right now it looks like poor man's dirt, if that makes sense. Another thing I say here is so these X's are just kind of like trying to remove the paint chipping that's occurring along this edge. Like, it's fine to have, but you have it like at like 1,000%. Like, you need to lower that quite a bit. Just have it in key spots, probably a bit smaller as well, in like how far it chips out. And I think this asset would be in a pretty good spot. Also, check your material roughness and see if you can like look up what painted metal looks like and see how the roughness on those is portrayed, because right now it feels there's strange stuff happening along especially here, and like when dust layers happen, they don't usually like get broken up like this unless that's like a dirt, sand, and then I don't know. This just wouldn't happen if it was material that ends up resting on the object that's just been sitting there for a while. Next up was, I believe this is Reddington, working on some substance blockouts. I'm going to say substance blockouts. With this shape, right now you're getting... what I ended up talking about here was... so this is your waves, right? And you've got... this is the direction, say the wind is going this way. Sand goes over the crest and then it breaks and drops. So you end up getting a sharper edge. So what you're seeing right now is that, and you actually need to be seeing more... Let's see if I can... You'll be seeing more like sharper edges along this. Right now it's really soft. It kind of looks more like clay. Or clayish. This one intrigues me because I'm not sure why. Like, maybe you're just showing the tiling more. The albedo, I wouldn't add this cloudy stuff unless you're starting to actually do the albedo texture. If it's just like a base color, just throw a base color in there, because the cloudiness kind of looks like you're just throwing stuff at it instead of like thinking about what you're putting on it, even in a blockout state. Usually when you're building substances or substance materials for game production, what you want to do is Get the initial roughness out of the way. The initial shapes, they don't have to like be too detailed or anything. So if it's like bricks, like you've got like what looks kind of like bricks, just kind of blocked out along the surface. Get your normal map out of that and a decent roughness. And if you need to, an albedo color, that's just straight color. If it's brick, then you do like say it's a red brick, you do red, and then for the grout you do like a tan, a light tan, just so you get the differences, and then leave it at that until you actually go in to make the material. That way you can start mapping that material to UVs and get it all in your scene. Start replacing your blockout scene with textures, even if they're not polished, right? They're blockout textures. This one is actually, so in the last stream I ended up talking about this one quite a bit. So this is Corey. Let's see here. Get ZBrush up. So this is Corey. It looks like Corey is working on a tileable brick wall. This side view is really interesting to me because like I'm trying to figure out why your bricks are so long, and then also like what's happening on the back here. So I'm gonna just do a quick little talk. I'm gonna go through these two, and then I'll talk about this one for the remainder of the video. This one won't be a full hour just because I already know all the stuff that's here, and I've kind of critiqued it already. So what I wanted to say about this gun is it looks pretty fucking badass. I wanted to say look into the material here, and maybe try and de-stylize this area a bit, unless you're trying to go for a stylized look. Right now it doesn't look realistic. It looks more catered towards a stylized, realistic game, if that makes sense. Like the chipping and stuff that's happening here is much more like starting to tap into painterly effects. This area right here looks really good. This grip looks really good, and the clip also looks pretty awesome, or the magazine, I should say, the magazine. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on the surface, which is really cool, and I like the presentation that you have going on here. Overall, I don't have too much to say on it. What just happened? There we go. Okay. Overall, I'd say is try and like in this view, it's very like blocky. If there was any way to like inset this a little bit so that you get a little dip in here so that there's a more interesting silhouette, I would do that. But at the same time, I don't know if that's, I assume the gun doesn't actually do that. So, is there anything else I was going to mention? I really like the little text stuff going on here. There's a little scratch here that actually is long enough that it's starting to feel like a triangulation issue. I'd maybe shorten that scratch, and then let's see here. Let's put it in here. In here, this edge feels like it might be too tight, so be careful with that. Maybe round it out a bit. Love the detail around there and the roughness. Let's see what else we got here. Here's that hard angled stuff I was talking about. It's very like basic in its shape. If there's any way to break that up or something, that would be great. Even this, like, so see, this is like pretty straight. If it doesn't look weird, lowering that or raising that just by a little bit so that they have a little bit of a disconnect, that'd be awesome. Also, nice attention to detail on the barreling on the inside there. Super cool. Yeah, so I think that's that for that piece. It's really good. It's really well done. Just I think you could work on your roughness and your albedo for like how you're authoring it to either look more realistic or like committing to the stylized. I don't have too much to say on this one. Just well done. Looks pretty well executed. The aging, I think it's more of how the albedo is getting chipped away and how the roughness counts for what the albedo is showing. The other thing I would say is when it's metallic, what I'm seeing right now is in here, in your metallic, you've got you've got detail in it. So metallic maps, what they're supposed to do is it's a black and white map where black is not metallic and then white is metallic. All the little grungy details and stuff like that, especially in a GGX shader setup, it was like Unreal is, I think Unity is now as well. If you're using GGX shaders, which are derived from like Disney research, they, I think, were the first ones to do GGX shaders. Yeah, so if you're using, I even not GGX, I would suggest this is how you're supposed to be doing it. So black, not metal, white, metal. All the little details and stuff in here, put those in your roughness. That's where all of that detail should exist. And if you have GGX, you get more range in your roughness so that you can actually simulate more materials like satin and stuff just through the roughness. Obviously, with satin, your shader is going to need some Fresnel type effect to help sell the satin feel. But we're talking about metals, so yeah, try and just make this black and white, metal, not metal, and then get all that detail in here and use the full range of your roughness if you need to in order to get that those details to come through. I think that's the only thing I would say. Be careful with the way you're wearing stuff down. I think for the most part it's working, but you get some areas like back this here. I'll go to the actual. So like, whoops. Back here, like this is pretty good, but like this one is like, it's becoming more saturated while at the same time becoming aged and lighter. Usually aging on a leather or this type of pleather material is going to net you lightening and desaturation as it loses color. So be careful with that type of stuff. Man, this turned out really well though. Super cool. Let me see what the, oops. Yeah, so in your albedo, I would be careful about doing this much information as how light it's getting, and leave that up to your roughness to take care of it, or your gloss to take care of that stuff. Because that's why I say that like material map is the most important out of all of them. It's just super, super powerful. Nice job with the fingerprint on the lens too. I like the little extra added details to the lenses. It's super cool. Nice color effects on there too. Anyways, well done. Okay, back to this brick wall thing. So I'm just going to do a really quick little exercise here. I'd already modeled it out in here. Let me make sure I still have it. No, not that one. Is it this one? Yeah. Okay, so this will be a little different because I'm in Moto, but what I'm going to do is basically, ZBrush has a thing called GoZ that's in Maya, Max, Moto. I think it's in a bunch of other ones as well. But I'm going to select these meshes and then hit GoZ. And then maybe not. Maybe it's because what is happening? Let's see. Oh, it might be disconnected. Let me... I'm just going to close this. We'll reopen it real quick. Time is it? Yep, cool. Got a little bit longer. So I'm just going to show you and walk you through like what you would do with this stuff. Now this is the approach of like modeling and sculpting inside of ZBrush to make tileable materials versus like, let's see. Oh yeah, there was a hardcore crash. Okay. Man, Moto never crashed. This is weird. It's probably because I had Moto up for like weeks. Map default Zen hotkeys. There we go. Cool. Okay. Oh, man. Okay. Let's, so we're going to make a plane. I'm going to just rotate, let's rotate it like this. We'll dupe that plane, bring it over here. We'll do a pretty exaggerated. Okay, so we'll also bring it forward or into the surface a bit. Oh, music's a bit loud. Okay, so we'll grab these guys. Go Z. Should just push it over to ZBrush. Then I just drag it out. There it is. We'll just make a new document so that we get the full canvas. Press P will give you your perspective so that you get your FOV. It's non-orthographic. So right now, because these are in the same mesh container, they're just like two peas in a pod, you know? So let's go ahead and go to polygroups. We'll auto group it. If you press Shift F, you can see that now there's these are two separate groups just because they have a different color. If you go to split, you can group split, which will split by polygroups into subtools. Let's switch to, if you alt click, you can switch between subtools, which is pretty nice. Click this guy. Shift click the eyeball will hide the other subtools. We're going to save this. Brick. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go into geometry. We're going to use the default Dynamesh. Just turn that on, see what resolution we're getting. Okay. It's too low. So let's try 256. We'll turn Dynamesh on again. That's still really low. Let's try okay, we'll do 512. Yeah. Okay, I'm just gonna turn it up. I'm gonna try 1400. All right, cool. So have this, right? Beveling everything tends to be really nice just because lighting tends to wrap around objects better and just looks more pleasing to the eye. So if you hold down Shift when you open a menu, you can keep this menu open while you have the other one open. So we're gonna go to deformation, and then if you click polish, and then move your Wacom to the left, so it's still at 0. Then it highlights it, and then you can just type in what you want. So we'll just do a polish of 1, which gives you the rounded edges. Then we'll go in. I'm going to use this DIN chip brush. I'll show you how to make it really fast. If you go to brush, and then trim smooth border, and then give it a square alpha and lower that intensity to like 65. You will get the chipping brush that I use all the time. So that's how you make that. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through and just kind of give a generic soft pass on like all the edges. The main reason for this is so that we can dupe this around pretty freely. This side will go a little bit more unique. If you need to, you can go, where is it at here? Morph target. Open that up, store morph target, and then whenever you do any sculpting, you can press B and then M. Where's it at? Morph. So BMO will give you the morph brush. Morph brush will basically revert any sculpting back to the original morph target when you captured it. So, and then you can delete morph target. Okay, yeah. So that's pretty handy. So let's. This video is going to be full of tons of information. So now that we have this guy, I'll just go in and do this a little bit more. This is pretty sloppy in my opinion. I'm just kind of going for it so I can show you guys what are we looking at time wise. All right, cool. So if we go to subtool, shift click on the eye, then you will see the plane again. If you hit the move key, which is W, there's scale, rotate, and move. This is the new gizmo. If you don't like the new gizmo, you can press Y and go to the old one. But everyone's familiar with this one. So one thing to know is it's locked. So whenever you move it, whenever you move the gizmo, it's moving the mesh. If you hold Alt, whatever you're doing to the gizmo unlocks it. The other thing you can do is Alt click, and it will move the gizmo to that location. If you hold down, where is it at? Is it this side? Yeah, this is like the reset orientation. While holding down Alt, it'll reset that. If you don't, see how the Y is pointing down? If you don't have Alt, you'll do that and it'll actually flip it with it. So you got to make sure that you hold Alt when you're doing that stuff. So, okay, so let's move this around. Now the goal is to make this tileable, right? So this seam here, let's imagine this square is your 0 to 1 space. If you hold down, is it Control? Yeah. So if you hold down Control, you can dupe the mesh. And then if you dupe the mesh, what we'll do is holding down Shift, we'll just rotate these around a little bit so we can get some unique ones. Remember, the goal is to keep the that plane kind of hidden. The seam of it anyways. You can see a little bit of it there. We'll address that in a little bit. And you can see that this is masked because these are both in the same subtool. So if you mark key select the background, you will have both of them again. Move key, hold down Control. You can move this around some more. Do this some more like this. Then remember, you can go into your polygroups, auto group. When you hold down Control and Shift, you can mark key out and hide by geometry, right? But one of the benefits of having polygroups is that if you do Control Shift and click on a polygroup, you'll actually hide all except the one that you clicked on. If you click on it again, it'll invert that, and then each one you click on will subtract, which is it's pretty handy. If you need all of them back, you just Control Shift tap in the background. Pretty handy. Anyway, so why we're doing this is I want to be able to isolate this one. As you can see, it's been isolated. Then I can move this one around some more. Holding down Shift, we can lock the degree rotation by like 5 degrees at a time. And some stuff like this. Nice thing is you can scale these too. So if you want, you can like what's happening here. Oh, right. These are all three. These are the same polygroup. So just to give you an idea, so that's our pass, right? Obviously, you would want to, like what I'd normally do is dupe like 2 or 3 of these and then sculpt those ones and then duplicate those ones throughout this scene. But just for this demo, we're going to like call it good. So what you want to do now is duplicate this subtool, which will give you 2. And if you scroll down to deformation, which is the same area where you had the polish, if you do offset, you can see you're offsetting the mesh itself. So what we want to do is offset in the Z for this, the way that we have it laid out. This may vary for you depending on which angle of orientation you're in. So we're gonna offset by 100. Like double checking to make sure this looks correct. Yes. Okay, so technically what this means is where this ends, you can see too, like where this ends basically, oh, whoops. If I do this, where this is overlapping, you can see that's where it goes off of this edge. So these are technically tiling now. This offset amount is not always 100. Sometimes you'll notice you'll do a, whoops, I think I just crashed it. You'll do 100 and then you'll have to do another 100. So what it'll actually end up doing is centering it. Oh, dang, come on. That sucks if I lose it. I'm just going to kill it. I just wait on it? No. Come on, ZBrush. Nah, screw it. Screw it. Just open it back up. I'm going to go for a few more minutes and then call it good. Man, I just flooded your brains with a bunch of stuff with ZBrush, so you might have to rewind back on that one a little bit. Dude, ZBrush takes so long to start up these days. It's pretty brutal. So let's say if you were going to do this in your modeling package, let's say it's like that, right? Probably want to move this one over here so it's overlapping a bit more. If you grab all these and copy them, you're going to want to use this corner point as your pivot, and then when you put it over here, those are now tiling, technically. Make sure ZBrush is actually starting. And then, yeah, let's do this here. Put that there. And then technically, if you do this, so this top layer here is also tiling. If I bring it down here and mirror it the other direction, then we'll just have to solve for this this edge here, because these guys are really close to this edge, so there's going to be a problem. These are going to collide into each other. Oh, it saved one of the other ones from the last time I was demoing it. Oh, that's funny. So what I've done now is, like, I sculpted the back piece, and you'll want to have, like, what you'll want to do is actually make your document, uncheck this to auto fit the window size so that it doesn't fit the whole screen, right? And then what you want to do, let's say you want it to bake out at 2048 by 2048. You say new document, you say no. Document will be 2048 by 2048. And then you resize. And then on this right side here, where are we at here? What? Oh, I'm confused. Okay, so we have this one. Oh, I hear Madhu. Madhu doing craziness. What is going on here? Oh, that's gonna bug me. Did they move it, or am I just not? I feel like it's Zoom 3D. No? Where's the... So if you go to document and you go to zoom, you can zoom your canvas out. Now, even though this is smaller, it's still 2048 by 2048. So what you do now is select the background. What is going on? There we go. Okay, hide everything. Frame this. And if you turn perspective off, this is perfectly framed in that canvas or document space. Then if you turn these back on, now you have this, and then you just go to your alpha and you grab doc, and there's your height map So what you do is, see, I have a 2048 by 2048 Z grab 01. Then you just export it out, and you can also do that for texture. You can do a grab for the texture. Grab doc and depth. So see, it can even grab all of that information. So what you could do is put this in no color and actually texture it if you wanted to. Anywho, okay, so that's like a pretty like standard level of like how you can do that stuff. And that's the critiques for this last Thursday that went so smoothly. All right, guys, I will see you guys on Monday. I'll check you later. Thanks for all the follows, subs, and the support. We've got a new goal down here, which is super crazy and lofty, but I'm going to try and go for it. I'm trying to get the Dell canvas. Any donations will go towards that. You can help me get that, and I can do a review on it, and then we can also look into having better critiques, because I'll actually be able to physically draw on your stuff. Anywho, all right, cool, guys. Have a good rest of your weekend. I will see you guys later.